Living in New York City, change might be the most consistent thing of all. Whether it's restaurants opening and closing or buildings being knocked down and replaced, we see it every day and have come to accept it. In a historical neighborhood like the Village, I tried to figure out what change is actually happening and what remains the same. I started by going to 505 LaGuardia Place, a building with many rent-controlled tenants, some of who have lived there since the 1960s. We spoke to Connie Mazzullo, who lives in said building and has been in New York since the 1930s.
In 64, I believe. 64, 65. And my husband had a liquor store on Spring Street.
Yeah.
And before that, we lived on Perry, where I had 2 wood-burning fireplaces, which I loved. I didn't want to come down here, believe it or not. But it was a walk-up. So now when I think back, I say, wow, I was lucky to get... I always feel the Italians made the Village. I do. I feel very strongly about that. Our Italian churches, Our Lady Pompeii, and as you know, we had the mozzarella store. We had, we still have Raffetto's and a lot of our Pino's meat market, and we have Arturo's, the landmark.
Yeah, FICO's. You know,
FICO.
Yeah.
FICO's. Sorry, sweetie.
Would you say there's still a strong Italian community in the Village?
Yeah, surprisingly, I would. Yeah, I think because of the churches. St. Anthony and Pompeii, I think, yeah. Well, a lot of our kids could not afford the rents in Manhattan, so a lot of our children left Manhattan, but yeah. A lot of Italians did go to Monroe, New York, yeah. I come to think of it. Mm-hmm.
Is that in the Catskills? Or?
No, it's below Monticello.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of, barber shops, you know, they're all Italians, the barbers, and a lot of, you're right, I never thought of that, yeah. Mm-hmm. I think every Italian settled in on Thompson Street. And then after that, we moved West 4th and 11th, near Perry, you know, up on the elite side, we would say.
Where do you shop and buy groceries now? Like, how's that changed?
Well, unfortunately, the convenience of Morton Williams. Actually, we had a beautiful grocery store years ago when I first moved into called Nicola's Market, which was a private owned grocery store and allowed you to pay by the week. At that point, yeah. So every time my husband got a paycheck, I paid my grocery bill.
Greenwich Village, for a long time, was known as an Italian neighborhood and still to this day has many Italian shops, restaurants, and stores. Raffetto's is a local Italian grocery store that sells their own delicious homemade pasta and has been in the neighborhood for almost 100 years. We spoke to Andrew, who runs Raffetto's.
Raffetto's was established in 1906, just around the corner on Sullivan Street. And then around 1919, he moved the operation to here, to 144 West Houston Street. He bought the building in 1919 for about $10,000.
That was a really good move.
Yeah, so that purchase saved us, when you think 100 years later, we're able to stay here and pass along the savings and good prices and create a good business in that way. The Village is probably easier because you have an automatic amount of foot traffic than some isolated strip mall somewhere else out of the city. Business in general is just, as an owner, you can't call in sick, you know. I couldn't call in sick since I was 12, so that type of pressure to always come to work. But overall, the Village, you have customers, and New York in general appreciate good food because it is so competitive, so it's like survival of the fittest. So we feel we're pretty fit, so I think we do okay.
Well, I guess Tourists are good for the neighborhood.
Oh, really?
I think so. They bring in, you know, economically, I'm sure they're good, yeah. I don't mind tourists at all. I mean, mostly New York is tourists. Like Italy, you know, you go to Italy, it's tourists.
Although the tourists do bring in money for local businesses, you can't deny the fact that they've changed the neighborhood a lot. Alex is the super at the NYU-owned Silver Towers, which are identical to and across the street from 505 LaGuardia.
I work in this building since November 1892. So, 27 years now.
So you've seen a lot of stuff go down.
Yes, I've seen the kids grow up and a lot of nice things. And bad things too, but
Do you think the neighborhood has changed a lot since then?
yes, I think it does. It changes all the time. Different people, different cultures, different backgrounds. In general, it's good. It did feel more like family before, more, I don't know, family oriented, which now is not as much. It's expensive, yeah, all those smaller restaurants, affordable ones, diners and stuff like that, they're all gone because, of course, they can afford the rent and everything that moves in is pretty much expensive and
Yeah.
not affordable.
Or it'll move in for a month and then leave. Or...
Yes, they're here for a little while and then they go. And there's no more little mom and pop things like Bruno's Bakery was.
Oh, yeah.
There was a Triumph Diner before you were born.
Would you consider this an Italian neighborhood at all anymore?
Not anymore.
Because it used to have that reputation.
Used to have,
yeah.
yes, but it's not as much. No. No. There still are some, Italian families around and old timers, but all in all, it changed a lot.
Adore.